always, is that your warm-up face? Hey guys, today we are back to talk to you about money.
What?
It's late here. We have had a very loud house, so we're having to film this late, but we're excited still. Are you awake this time? Do you know how many children you have? He's awake this time, I think.
Let's ask that later.
Okay, thank you guys for leaving questions. There were a lot of them. I don't think we'll get to all of them, but we're trying to pick some out here, and we really appreciate when you leave them. If you don't get your question answered, please ask again.
Yes.
Just keep asking. And then sometimes also, some of you who are really smart with money go back and answer some of the other questions too. And I've noticed that people have been helped by that. So thank you for that too. That's awesome.
That's great. Yeah, I saw a couple questions too that were asked. And thank you all the guys that are looking out. I saw some answers like, okay, this is someone that knows what they're saying.
Yes.
Because I completely agreed with everything they said. So thanks for pitching in.
Yes. Okay. So Emily asked, we're supposed to be generous and help those in need. And I have no problem helping those who need some extra money to help them out that month. The problem is I'm too willing. I get taken advantage of by my family members, including my mom, because I make more money, so they think I can just dish it out. I really want to make more of a budget for myself this year and save a lot more money. And when I say, oh, let me check what I have left, they make me feel bad or guilty. They say, oh, that must be nice, or I wish I could have money like you, and whatever else. And then I cave and it throws my budget off. They think there's no reason I can't pull from my savings. They have no sense of saving or budgeting. So here's my question. Sorry, so long. It's something I'm really struggling with, but how do I kindly tell them no? How do I have a godly giving heart but protect myself from going bankrupt? Have you ever had a situation like that, and how did you handle it?
Well, that's a good question, Emily. I actually have dealt with this with clients for a number of years now, and it's always a catchy one because typically you're dealing with people that you actually care for. One thing I want to tell you, I know you are a generous person, just as it sounds. There is a verse that talks about, whoever sows sparingly, I think it's 2 Corinthians, will also reap sparingly. Whoever sows generously will also reap generously. But it goes on to say that each person shall give what they have decided in their hearts to give, not reluctantly and not out of pressure. Because God doesn't kind of care for that kind of giving out of pressure. It no longer becomes giving. My suggestion to people is usually like, if you're doing a budget and you're in a place where you always help your family, then include that in your budget. So then you have an amount that is designated. You don't have to use it all, deplete it all every month, but you have something in your budget designated for helping your family. So when that amount is depleted, you could actually say, I don't have it. Because every dollar is assigned a name. Unless, of course, otherwise you feel compelled by the Lord in your own heart to give more and beyond that. That's totally up to you. But way to combat that is actually including that in your monthly budget and then using those funds at your discretion. You should never give out of guilt. It never produces fruit in your life, and so you can be free from that. God doesn't expect you to give out of guilt. Great.
Okay, let's move on to the next one.
Sorry.
I'm getting the two long ones out of the way first.
Okay.
My husband and I have always felt strongly that I should be home with the kids. We have 3 kids aged 12, 15, and almost 18. And so many people believe that now that our kids are older, I should go to work, but we believe it's more important for me to be home and available for the needs of our kids, my home, and husband. The issue we're having is that my husband brings in a decent income and we should be able to afford a home. We currently rent, but we made a lot of mistakes in our younger years and ruined our credit. Hubby's debt is primarily medical before we had insurance with a few credit card accounts in there. My debt is primarily student loans with a few credit card accounts in there. When we were younger, we chose to ignore the debt and never paid it. Then about 8 to 10 years ago, we went through a majorly difficult time. We were homeless for some months. By the grace of God, we were able to completely change our lives, and financially speaking, meaning what we were bringing in, doing much better than most, but we've been struggling to budget well still. Hubby is paid monthly, and by the end of the month, we're out of money and usually have at least one overdraft fee. I've watched a ton of budgeting videos and I know our income is more than sufficient. So it's absolutely ridiculous that we're now working on buckling down and creating a new budget to change that. Anyway, I'm feeling overwhelmed because we still haven't addressed our debt at all. And to be honest, we don't know where to start. How do we figure out every single thing we owe and then begin making payments on it so we can bring our credit scores up and eventually buy a home of our own? Should we consider working with a debt consolidation company? Or should we really call on the numerous creditors individually and set up payments with each one? How do I even find a list of them all? We aren't sure how much we owe or to who. I believe we have a combined total debt of about $40,000-ish. And even though our income should be sufficient for our current bills and paying toward debt, should I maybe get a part-time job? It feels very defeating, but I genuinely believe that the Lord placed you guys in our path so we could find the beginning of a new season and learn to take control and responsibility for our debt finally. Thank you for being a help. God bless you abundantly. God bless you guys.
Yes.
It's awesome that you're wanting to do something about it. I think I just want to commend you for that and to really get on top of it.
Yeah, and I want to encourage you right now is that you can pay off all that debt.
Yes.
You can get it. You can be completely debt free and save money. You're absolutely capable of. You start setting your steps in order. You know, you never know what God might do in your life. You know, a lot of planning and a lot of praying. But it's a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money. That is a money you could actually tackle from the way it sounds right now. Where do you start? I am always for dealing with the original creditor if that option is still available. Sometimes they might sell the debt to a debt collector, but where you start to actually, you have to find out who you owe and how much you owe and what it would take before you consult any consolidator or anything like that. You take an inventory, pull up your credit report. If you live, and I'm assuming you live in the United States, go to annualcreditreport.com. You can get one free credit report that the credit bureaus are required to provide to the consumer, at least one. You get one free credit report from all three major credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. You can just select one and wait up 2-3 months and get the other one and whatnot. I'm getting a lot of details. Hopefully someone else will benefit from this. That would give you detailed information on what's out there with your name. Who you owe, what their contact is, how much delinquency you have. Then you can start contacting the creditors one by one, working plans. Sometimes in your situation, they might even agree to taking less than what you owe.
Once you have all that information, you just call each one of them?
Call each one of them, try to work on a plan that you could manage. And then once you get a plan from each one of them, most of the time they'll work with you. Then I would say pay the minimum payment on all of them, and then take the smallest one, tackle that. When you're done with that, roll the payment over to the next one and the next one and the next one. And so basically you're gonna just roll over the payment that you're paying from the one. By the time you pay 3 or 4, you'll have a lot more money to work with. So that's what I would do. Taking steps is better than not doing anything at all.
If you get very intentional, you'll make good progress. And if you can make some sacrifices, look at really where you're spending your money, get on a budget, and make some sacrifices, it will not take you long.
Yep.
How many years does it take to repair your credit usually?
Not too long. Not too long. If you pay off the debt, it rebounds fairly quick. 6 months you start seeing positive impact. Yeah, so
that's awesome. Okay, we own and operate a dairy hog business. Are you talking about only a household budget? How do you budget with farming? That's Gail.
That's a good question, Gail. With farming, I'm assuming you've been doing it for a while, and so hopefully you have some idea of what your income, if your income is consistent at least annually. So what I would do is take that income into a monthly expression and get a good idea of what you make per month. Even though it ebbs and flows, you probably get paid a couple times in the year, majority of the money. And so then I will live off of that monthly budget, not the annual budget. Now I realize that sometimes when you are in that position, sometimes you tend to be paying your bills backwards. If you could get ahead, you can maybe make a smaller budget, and so you have a buffer to eventually be walking ahead, not behind.
Okay, Shell. We said Shell. I think it's Shell. Chelle. And Belle goes, what? I'm going to call you Shell. Shelly? I don't know. But it's a cool name, I think. Says, what do you suggest a person does if they have credit cards or debt that is now in the collection status? Can you possibly make arrangements to bring them current and work to paying them off when they've gone unpaid for so long? Just wondering what would make sense to help remove some of the negative credit reporting. It's been like 3 years, almost 4, that we were just unable to pay everything while my husband was in school. Now things are much better for our family of 5. They would like to buy a home and trying to save, clear some debt, and they're both 41. So, and clear up their old mistakes.
Yes, you can pay off stuff that's already in collection. I just gave an advice with the person previously about pulling up on the credit bureau and checking out who owns the debt now and how much. So you can work with all those things, and it will show in your credit report that it got sent to collection, but it would now show that it was collection but paid. So, and then you'll be on the road to recovery on your credit report. So yes, to answer your question quickly, by all means, take care of it. You know, it would be good for your credit in the long run. You can't get a mortgage when you have those things cleared up, even if your credit score is not very high yet. So
this one's from My New Walk with Jesus. I have asked questions about the subject. I haven't yet, but boy, do I need the advice now. How do you set a budget when even going off of how much you make the year before, it's still a major fluctuation of how much you make? Also mentally, what would Solo recommend to change when it comes to spending money that you're trying to save? I feel like last year I tried to save, but I kept spending when I felt, which I feel is a mental block in some way. I think about, in the way I think about money. Last question is, I have 3 debts this year. 2 are credit cards. Well, let's answer the first ones first so we don't forget.
I'm keeping a mental note.
Oh, okay.
But anyway.
Last question is, I have 3 debts this year. 2 are credit cards, which are charging me high interest. The 3rd is my car. My car takes the most money out of my monthly income and is close to being paid off after 5 years. Should I pay the credit cards with high interest rates and low payments before the winter comes and I don't make as much, or should I pay off my car so I don't have a large chunk coming out when winter comes?
Okay, so going back to the first question, which was about the budget and how do you start a budget when the income even fluctuates when you look at it year by year. So the first step with that one, I would try to create a budget with the minimum income so that everything that's up, if you make way more than you're expecting, then it's a bonus and you can put it towards your debt. So try to work at least with the minimum amount, and then you can work your way up if that's not sufficient to take care of what you really need to just live. Okay, so the question regarding the debt, high interest rate for credit cards, I would say take care of them quickly, and then you can once you have those paid off, then all the extra money that you are using to pay those debts off, you can start paying on your car, and then before you know it, you'll be debt free. The
motivation to not spend money that you're trying to save, I think personally for me, what helps a lot is to surround myself with people that are like-minded. In the online community, you can find a lot of people on YouTube that are trying to pay off and save toward goals. And when you're filling yourself with that kind of stuff, it makes you want to stay on track. Also, writing your goals and making them very clear. If you're married, you and your husband, making them very clear what your goals are and keeping them in front of you all the time. So if you're like having a budget meeting, talking together, you're always talking about your goals. And so when you're keeping it in the foremost of your mind, sure, you're gonna make mistakes sometimes probably, but you're gonna more likely want to stay on track when you're really surrounding yourself with that.
That is right. You're talking about how the money you're trying to save and then you end up using that money and whatnot. I think you probably don't have an emergency cash reserve, and you want to do that first if you can. And that is so that when you're on track, when you're trying to work on your plan to pay off your credit cards and paying off your car, you're not getting yourself further in debt. So you want to work on that. It would vary. I can't really give you how much. I can tell you exactly how much that should be. It depends with your income and your lifestyle as well. But you do want that, and then you could work as your own credit card if you have those emergency situations. You could take money from that emergency fund and then replenish it the next time you get some extra money, and then go on with your debt plan. So I would think that is probably what you need to establish first.
Yeah. Okay, Stand Up, Stand Out asked, how do you get your spouse...
Stand Up, Stand Out, that is a cool name.
How do you get your spouse to do a budget when you've asked for years, and then how do you get that same spouse to stop hiding? I would pay to have Solo do one FaceTime to get us started. I'm scared this will ruin our marriage.
So anyway, that is a hard place to be. And if you're not on the same page with money and all that, I think it's deeper. From what I'm hearing here, it's deeper than just the money. Mm-hmm. So you do want to get on the same page, because unless there's a verse in the Bible in Amos that talks about can two walk together unless they agree? It's a question, actually. It's a rhetorical question. Can two walk together unless they agree? And the point is, if you're going to do anything together, you have to be on the same page. My recommendation, because I think I would need more questions than giving you a blanket answer, is that you need to find some help and just reach out. If your husband can agree to just see someone, maybe if you're involved in a church, see your pastor or someone that would be able to give you some kind of counsel, just so you're on the same page. And I'm not talking about money, just overall. Mm-hmm. Then money will just be something you could actually tackle together. That's what I would encourage you, praying the best for you, and praying that your husband's heart will be soft enough to agree to at least see someone together that can help you or speak into your life.
Okay, Tracy asked, what's your thoughts on a budget and how if hubby's pay is different every week? Any ideas?
Every week. I would say figure out how much it is an average per month, and then use that as a starting point. But if it fluctuates a lot, the very first step is just setting up a budget based on your minimum that you can live off of. And so then when you make more, you at least can allocate the extra money maybe towards savings or for things that maybe bigger bills and whatnot, and paying debt. If you want to be very successful with a budget, you want to get to a point of consistency where you have an amount that you're living off of that's consistent month in, month out. So for people that have fluctuating income, which I have had for a number of years, the best way that I have seen work with hundreds of families that I've worked with over the years is that you want to start with maybe shaping up with the least amount that you can get by with. Mm-hmm. And then you could allocate extra if you have enough to live on. And then no matter what the income is each month, your expenses that you need to live off of are the same.
Yeah, so we actually do this. Our income fluctuates. So we have a baseline working budget, and so we take this amount that we're pretty certain we will always get, and we use that for our budget. And then when we have extra, everything we have extra goes into savings, and then we have certain things that come out of our savings, like bills that are paid every 6 months or every year, and so we're always saving up for it.
Real estate taxes, things like that.
Yeah, and so we're saving up for that stuff, but we know we'll almost always have that money because we decided on an amount that we're pretty certain we're always going to make every month.
Right, and there are several months where we make way more than that amount is. We still use that amount as our budget.
Yes, yes. Cindy asked, what would you suggest when you pay off a bill? Use that money to pay off another bill, or put that money in savings?
By a bill, I'm assuming you're talking about debt, right? I think. Okay. I'll answer that in two parts. Number one, if you don't have an emergency cash reserve set aside, then use that extra money right now to set up yourself an emergency cash reserve. Then use that payment to pay off the next bill, and then use the 2 payments to pay the next bill, and then those 3 payments to pay, and off you go until you're debt free. And you'll notice that you'll start paying off debt a lot quicker, and then you can save all the money you have in the world. So
great. Okay, Autumn asked, we have a budget in place for our expenses, and a part of that budget is for our financial goals. These goals are a bunch of different things, from savings to vacation fund to house payment, to speakers my husband wants even. So how do we, I think I cut off a little bit of her message, but how do we divide them in for each of our different goals, different savings accounts for each goal, or divide the money each month between all of them, one big savings account so they can just be pulled from when we have enough money for something we want? So I just told you that we actually do our budget that way, where we put a lot of money into savings for things like that.
Yeah, you can have a couple, two, you could have 2 savings accounts or 3 if you want, and then you could keep track of the rest in something like a spreadsheet or something like that.
And she mentioned like some of them are small things, some are big things.
Yes, so here's what I would recommend, and in fact, this is a good question. Like Sarah said, we actually operate this same exact way. So we have a list of items that we know what we call we call it working savings. Do we call it working savings?
Sure.
We have some. I have some.
It's basically savings that we'll need every year, or some things we know specifically we want that year.
Yes, and we also things that we pay a couple. Yeah.
Yes.
So you can have goals. You can have goals of how much you want to save for those particular savings goals.
Yeah.
Okay. So once you have those goals outlined, then you know what your target is, so you're not shooting aimlessly.
Yeah.
And so then as far as prioritizing or dividing across, I think that would have to depend with, if I know I'm saving for a car that I'm gonna need in 6 months, I might prioritize on putting money there first.
Yeah.
So
we're always talking about like which ones do we need to fund first.
Yeah.
Like what's coming up next, if it's because we keep some of our big bills that come once or twice a year. So is that coming up soon, or can we put some money toward this thing that we want to do?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't think
we keep it all in one account though. So
we have 2.
Oh, 2.
Yeah, but
those savings.
You can't go wrong. I think the only thing that I think would help you just in your thinking from what I'm reading is actually having specific goals for those items that you're saving for, even if it's vacation or whatever the case may be. That might maybe help your system be more clear.
For us, our second savings account is where we keep like our more emergency fund money that we don't want to touch. We want to continue growing, but we don't want to touch. And so that's why 2 savings accounts works really well for us, because it just helps us separate. But we do just keep a list. We keep a list, write it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty simple.
Yeah, great questions, everyone.
Thank you guys for listening in today. I hope you got something out of this. And thanks for everyone who left a question. If you have a question that we haven't answered, or a new question or whatever, leave it down in the comments below, and we'll do this again in March.
All right, all the best, guys.
Bye.
Bye.